The psychosexual complex is an agency all around us. It's like the water we swim in. When Kennedy was killed, a book was published later called A Question of Character, which went into his dalliances. Jack Ruby owned a strip club that the police frequented called the Carousel Club. Of course, the Broadway musical Hair trivialized sexual involvement, although there was a note of hypocrisy about that when in the film Easy to Be Hard was about a jilted lover, an abandoned lover. At the time that the Burston letters surfaced, the Beatles were mobilized in advance to announce their circuit the imbecile. And they used lookalikes of people to continue what they believed should be registered as the arguments of the people who they were representing. And they staged a lot of guerrilla theater. When you hear about Catholics abusing children, when you hear about war games of pussy ball, these all fall into the category of the psychosexual complex. Was Monica Lewinsky tied to J. Epstein Island? These sort of questions dog the material that is presented to us in news bulletins and cyber broadcasts. Psychosexual complex is the sort of thing that appeals to people's ruminations about their own disappointments, their sister with broken ribs, the story of children being trafficked in FEMA centers. What arouses our indignation and what does not? What cannot be accepted and what is clearly intended to manipulate us by our sensibilities? The Beatles had a spin-off group called King Crimson who schmoozed with Tammo DeJong, the author of 14 Archetypes. If there's only 14 archetypes in the human character, what do we need all these excess people for? Might as well talk to Bill Gates about getting rid of a few billion of us. And this, of course, answers the problem of clean water supply for everybody. Why bother, is the response that comes from the trillionaire oligarch crowd. And we delve into their marriages, past and present, their woes, their children's woes. This is all part of the psychosexual complex. What makes different the situation that I have faced while people have pot-boiled stories with false consciousness about them, trying to make a captured, tortured 13-year-old who was obliterated by beatings, severe beatings, head blows that were nearly lethal, mortal slaughter and kidnapping attacks, inhalants for hours, conjoined to nerve agent-laced LSD-type hallucinogens, while under the attentions of sadists and neuropsychiatric somatic estate prison, as well as veterans. A 12-year-old deaf boy. They'd find pieces of paper that he scribbled things on and say, aha, see what? See why we should allow these stalkers from Israel to murder kin of JFK like Cersei. That makes this story different isn't just the ludicrous chasing of fringe stories for Ringo Starr's amusement. What makes this story different is it is factually shown, easily shown, to be protecting the people who the British claim killed John Lennon, and factually protecting them because they released the AIDS attack. And that is why they are being protected. So it's irrelevant that they killed John Lennon. They want a story about a little boy who they claim lied about what happened to him in childhood. Didn't lie. Is telling the truth about what happened in childhood. But they claim could have saved John Lennon as a diversion to protect the people, easily shown and, more importantly, easily described as having released the AIDS attack. If you believe John Lennon was killed, they're the ones who did it. You might as well just forget. I was taken completely by surprise by the idea. Completely by surprise. It was from Alpha Centauri. Yet they are using their mind game and their ship of psychosexual complex, of the psychosexual complex, which is their starship enterprise, to protect the people who they say did it. That's what they're doing. And the raking of the coals and the raking of the coals and the raking of the coals are to protect the people who they say killed John Lennon. Now, if you looked at the evidence as I have, you realize that John Lennon was in on this. And he staged his death to give this alibi story a protection racket for Gail Burstyn and Leslie Katz and the nerve network around them who were behind the drama program, the psychosexual complex of the storyline that gets variously belabored to hide what they show, in fact, in broad daylight to be rubbing our faces in having released the AIDS attack, rubbing our faces in it, leaving no doubt, no fiction, nothing to imagine by. So what do you call the Fourth Estate, the American Journalist Society? What do you call the dungeon masters in the magistrate desks and the Congress people? What do you call them? Wankers? Is that what they collectively are? Getting off to the psychosexual complex to hide what is known and blazing in the trail system of the attack group while pretending that they killed John Lennon, while pretending that it is his will that they are executing by protecting them for releasing the AIDS attack. That makes this case a little bit different from somebody getting what Clinton says isn't really sex from a secretary. My mother called it a blow job.